Hi my esteemed viewer out there, it's so good to have you once more. This is the second series of our UTME videos, and I assure you after today's video you're going to learn a lot. From our first video we did a lot on number basis, and if you try those quizzes questions that came after the whole video, you'll come to see that we really treated everything very well on number basis. Now those quizzes are for you to solve. Did you solve them? If you did, these are the following answers you should get. They are displayed on your screen and I want you to look at it. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now on today's video series, we are going to take you on fractions, decimal and approximation. Now at the end of this topic, I want to assure you that you should be able to do the following. Basic operation, which are multiplication, division, addition and subtraction on fractions and decimal, and 2. Express numbers in significant figures and decimal places. But before that, I want you to look at the challenge question for today's topic. Can you solve the following questions? They appear pretty difficult, but I assure you at the end of today's video you will find them very simple. Just stay tuned to the end of this video and you will get the best of solutions to these questions. So as an introduction, let's delve properly into our topic for today. Now, fractions, as we see, represent equal parts of a whole or more like a collection. And a fraction has two parts, the numerator and the denominator. There are three major types of fractions, and they are proper fractions, improper fraction, and mixed fraction. That is all I think you should know for fraction for now. Now let's look at decimal numbers. Decimal numbers can be defined as numbers whose whole number and the fractional part is separated by a decimal point. Now the dot in a decimal number is called a decimal point. The digit following the point shows a value smaller than 1. Now a decimal fraction is a fraction where the denominator is a number such as 10, 100, 1000 and etc. Now decimal places involve the placement of digits after the decimal points. Zeros after the decimal points are counted as the numbers are rounded up. Take note of that. Let's take for example, displayed on the screen, we see 0.000247 and 0.46573. They are both rounded up to 5 decimal place. Now look at that is the solution. These two numbers are rounded to 5 decimal places, and you can see that the zeros before the numbers for the first number is included. Now let's consider the significant figures. The significant figures are the numbers of digits in a value, often a measurement that contributes to the degree of accuracy of the value. We start counting significant figures at the very first non-zero digit. Take note. For example, we have a number 0.0024876. Now we can say this is a 5 significant figure. Now if you take note, you'll find out that the 00 after the point was not included. So significant figure has to do with non-zero digit, and it's very different from decimal numbers or decimal places. Now we're going to look at approximation. An approximation is anything that is similar but not exactly equal to something else. What do we mean by this? A number can be approximated by rounding. Now, a calculation can be approximated by rounding the values within it before performing the operations properly. Now, before we delve further into this topic, fractions, decimal and approximations, I want you to take note of these following key notes. Keynote 1. To perform all basic operations on fraction, bold mass rule will be of great assistance. So, if you are performing operations for addition and subtraction, simply look for the LCM of the given fraction and simplify. Now, if you are performing operation on multiplication, simply change the mixed fraction to improper fraction and then reduce by common fraction where possible. Look at, for instance, from 2 whole number 2/3, we can reduce it to what? To 8/3. So you see properly that we have changed that mixed fraction to an improper fraction. Now, when you are carrying out operation for division, in this instance, change the division sign to multiplication sign. And once you do that, you will invert the fraction after the sign, after which you will now reduce by common fraction where possible. What do we mean by this? The fraction 2/3 divided by 3/9, if you carry out division, it will become 2/3 multiplied by 9/3. Now, do you notice that the 3/9 is now inverted to 9/3 because the division sign has changed to multiplication sign. Now, keynote 2. To perform all basic operations on decimal for addition and subtraction, all you need to do is simply make the decimal point align and do your operations. For multiplications, all you need to do is get the sum of the decimal place values, multiply the decimal values as a whole number, and then apply the summed decimal value on the result of the multiplication. The example displayed on your screen will show you exactly how to do that. For example, if we are given 3.24 times 4.5, you note that 3.24 has 2 decimal place value and 4.5 has 1. Now, the sum of these decimal place values will give you 3. So, changing them back to the normal number, we'll have 324 multiplied by 45. It will give us a total value of 14587. Now, after this, you will now include the 3 decimal place value, which will now give you 14.580. Now, I'm not telling you that this is the only method you use when carrying out multiplication of divisions. You can also use some other methods that will be shown to you in the samples we will give you for this topic. Now, finally, for division, when performing operations on decimal, you need to multiply the given decimal questions through by the value of the highest place value of all the decimal values. When you multiply and divide the resulting value, as the case may be, you can now finally divide the final result by the highest place value. For example, if you are given 0.4 is tenths, you divide 0.4 by 1/10. Now, 0.04 is in its hundredths, that is 1/100, and 0.463 is in its thousandths, that is 1/1000. Now, these things might sound so hard to understand, but I want you to note these following key points, as most of the samples will be showing you now live. We'll carry out the explanations of these following key points. Now pay attention as we'll start off the solutions to this sample question. We're going to take first of all sample question 1.
Good. So now let's go about looking at how we'll break this down into the smallest term. Remember, all we need to do here is to break this down into the smallest term so that the values can be easy to manipulate. Now let's look at this. This is 1.25. We have 2 decimal points here. This will cut this. So the result will give 125 with the last 0. If you multiply that, why if you multiply this, the 3 decimal point will kill the 3 zeros. That will give you 25. Divided by this will give you 50. Now let's go about cutting this to the smallest term. 5 here will give us 5. 5 this way will give us 10. 5 this way will give you 1. 5 this way will give you 2. So we are left with what? 1250 divided by what? By 2. Now let's divide further. 2 here will give you 1. 2 here will give you 6. 2 in 5 will give you 2, remainder 1. And 2 in 10 will give you 5. So your final result will be 6 to 5. Now remember, that is not going to be our final result. Why? Why? Because we have multiplied the various decimal numbers with 1000. So we need to return it back to what it was initially. So this now will be divided by what? By 1000. Now if we divide this by 1000, we are going to arrive at 0.625. And remember now, your solution, you are asked to what? You are asked to write this correct to 1 decimal place. Now if we want to place this in one decimal place, that means we should have just a 1 decimal value, and the result will be 0.6. Now recall, if this was up to 5, we would have approximated this to make this 7. But since it's not up to 5 and above, we're going to leave it that way. So our final result is going to be 0.6. So you see, the solution is easy. That's exactly what I keep telling you. So now let's look at how we can also apply those other keynotes we've seen and see how we can use them to solve further questions on this topic. So that is exactly how it is. Now let's look at sample number 2.
The sample question 2, as displayed on the screen, is simplify these fractional values. Now to go about simplifying this, we need to first convert all these mixed fractions to improper fractions. Now to do that, if we want to go about doing that, we will simplify them together. Let's do it together. 2 times 3 will give us 6. 6 plus 2 will give you 8/3. Now multiply by 2 times 1 will give you 2, plus 1, that will give you 3/2. Now this is going to be divided by 4 times 5 is equal to 20. 20 plus 4, that will give you 24/5. Now we are going to get this solution correctly, we are going to apply the Bodmer's rule. Now what is this Bodmer's rule? Bodmer's rule is an expression that we use in solving fractions, in simplifying fractions. To carry out this solution, we are going to use the Bodmer's rule. I guess you must have been taught that in your primary school. Now, Bodmer's means bracket of division, multiplication, addition, and what? Subtraction. You don't carry out an addition operation before a multiplication operation, and you don't carry out an operation involving of before a division operation. They must follow sequentially. Now let's apply that here. Now we are going to take this off. This is going to be a bracket because we are going to carry out the division before the multiplication. So you see these two rows, division must be done before multiplication. Now let's go. We will have this to be 8 divided by 3 multiplied by, this will now give us 3 divided by 2 multiplied by what? 25 over what? 24. Now if we simplify this further, what are we going to get? This will give us 8 times 3 multiplied by what? 15 divided by 48. Now you see we've simplified it further. Now we can now finally desimplify and then get our final solution. 3 here will give us 1, while 3 in 15 will give us what? 5. Did I hear you say 5? You must be correct. Now let's look at this. 2 will go here to give us 4. 2 will kill this to give us 2 and 4. 2 can still kill this to give us 2, and 2 can kill this to give us 1 and 2. Finally, 2 here will give you 1, and 2 here will give you what? 6. Now your final solution will be 5 times 1, which is equal to 5, over 1 times 6 equal to 6. So your final solution is a fraction which is equal to 5 over 6. Now, of key note to this solution is what I want you to note. Normally, if you carry out this operation without applying this board mass, you will get a solution, but definitely that solution will not be correct. So whenever you carry out a simplification questions like this, you should pay attention to this board mass, because using this board mass, you definitely get the right solution as you carry out the operation. Did you get it? Now let's look at the third sample question. Good. Now let's look at the solution to the third sample question. The third sample question says evaluate this to 3 significant figures. Now to calculate this, we need to return this fraction, this proper fraction, back to a mixed fraction. Now how do we do that? That will aid us to carry out this solution easily. Now we have 21 over 9. We are reducing it back to a mixed fraction. First of all, let's decide to multiply the 9 by 2. 9 times 2 will give you 18. 18 plus 3 will give you 21. So this value will give you 2 whole number 3 over 9, which is a mixed fraction. Now to carry out this easily, we bring out the mixed fraction to be 2 plus 3 over 9. That is what it will give you. Remember, we are taking this to a decimal fraction, decimal value, which will end up being a 3 significant figure. Now let's solve this. This will give you 2 plus, if you simplify this further, it will give you 2 plus 1 over 3. Now we want to solve this 1 over 3. Using a long division, we are asked to divide 1 by 3. Now dividing 1 by 3, what do you have? 1 divided by 3 is not possible. You put a 0 here, point. Then you put a 0 here, which will make this 10. 10 divided by 3 is possible. It gives us 3. 3 times 3 will give you 9. If you subtract this, you are going to have 1. We'll still go again. 1 divided by 3 is not possible. You put a 0 here to make it 10. 10 divided by 3 will give you what? 3. And 3 times 3 will give you 9. That will give you 1. So if you notice, it's a recurring division. So in this instance, we're going to break it there, but we'll take the last one. You put 0 here. 10 divided by 3 will give you 3. 3 times 3 will give us 9. So at the end, if this subtracts, we're going to have 1 as a remainder. So what we have here now will be equal to 2 plus 0.033. Now when you add this, you're going to have a value which is 2.333. Now remember, they say you should express your result into 3 significant figures. That means what they want us to have is just 3 figures. So if we express this into 3 significant figures, our result is going to be 2.3 and 3. That's the solution to 3 significant figures. So you see, the solution is very simple. When you look at the solution, you can equally apply these solutions to other fractions that you find very, very difficult. Now let's look at the final sample for this topic. Good. Now let's look at the final sample question for this section. Now, if you look at, you are asked to simplify 3 over 4 of 4 over 9 divided by this mixed fraction and this mixed fraction. So what we did here is to convert these mixed fractions to what? To fractions, and that gives us this value, 19 over 2 and 24 over 19. You know how we did it? 19 times 1 gives you 19 plus 1, that will give you 24 over 19. You do same to this. Now let's go about this. Solving this, we need to follow a rule. Remember our keynote, the BODMAS rule. Now let's look at the BODMAS rule. In the last topic, in the last sample question, I've told you some few things about this BODMAS rule. Remember, bracket will come first, and everything in the bracket off must be done first. So we'll expand that bracket as we take off the off. Remember, division comes after that, but before that division, we need to look at the division here. So we are going to consider this. We'll consider this and then expand it and then see what we can do. So let's treat the bracket first. Now, if we expand that bracket, we are going to have 3 over 4 multiplied by, because off in mathematics simply signifies multiplication, multiplied by 4 over 9 divided by 19 over what? 2, all in bracket. Multiplying this, we are taking care of the off. That will now give us what? 3 over 9 multiplied by 2 over what? 19. So we've succeeded in breaking the bracket. Now we'll now bring in the division, which is 24 over 19. Now what else do we need to do? Remember, before the multiplication, we need to take care of the division in BODMAS. Now let's take care of this division, these two. Now this will give us what? 3 over 9 multiplied by, this division will now give us 2 over 19 multiplied by 19 over 24. Now, naturally, 19 will kill 19. 2 here will give you 1, and 2 here will give you 12. So what do we have finally? We will have 3 over 9 multiplied by 1 over 12. Now you see, gradually we are breaking the signs, we are breaking the fractions into smaller fractions using the BODMAS. Finally, we are left with multiplication, which is the last sign. Now when we multiply, 3 here will give you 1, and 3 here will give us what? 4. When we divide further, when we expand further, we are going to have 1 times 1 to give us 1, and then 4 times 9 times 4 will give you what? 9 times 2 will give you what? That will give you 18. And 9 times 2 will give you what? 18. So 18 divided by 18 will give you what? 36. So our result will be what? 1 divided by what? 36. So simplifying this whole fraction in BODMAS will give us 1 divided by 36, which is the solution. Now, don't you see it's easy? Recall I told you initially that those challenge questions seems pretty difficult, but after following through all these samples, can you agree with me now that they are very, very simple? Now I'm going to give you some quizzes, and I want you to analyze these quizzes. I want you to look at these quizzes and see how you can solve it. But then, let's take up our time. Carry out these quizzes, do them properly so that at the tail end, you can be able to master all fractions, decimal, and more like approximation. Decimal and fractions are very important. Take your time, go through those quizzes, and I will see you in our next videos.